Massive, heavily armed empires rarely collapse from outside invasions. They collapse from the inside, defeated by narratives they cannot control. Take a ruling power with a complete monopoly on a planet's most critical resource. To maintain this control, they deploy an elite military force, soldiers raised on deadly prison planets where only the most lethal survive. On paper, their physical presence across the territory is total. But that sheer physical dominance creates a fatal blind spot. A foreign occupier can count weapons, track their supply shipments, and secure extraction facilities, but they cannot measure the indigenous belief systems brewing entirely out of their sight. The desert locals have a culture built around extreme survival and a deep reverence for the giant sandworms that dominate their world. When conventional armies and supply lines are unavailable, a local insurgency requires a different approach. Surviving an impossible military occupation means building a weapon out of faith. The first phase of resistance relies on total assimilation. Insurgents embed themselves within the indigenous culture, learning dangerous survival techniques and mastering the terrain, even learning to summon and ride the massive, lethal creatures that roam the deep desert. Localized, precision guerrilla strikes against resource extraction equipment create a massive ripple effect. By targeting key harvesting infrastructure, a small group of fighters forces a cascading failure that brings the occupying empire's global supply chains to a complete halt. Halting that production starves the empire financially, bleeding their treasury dry. However, bankrupting an occupying force only removes their resources. It does not dismantle the foundational political authority that deployed them in the first place. To break the actual political structure, a parallel systemic strategy is required. This involves identifying existing religious myths within the local population and deliberately manipulating them to artificially engineer a divine, messianic figure. This engineering requires establishing unquestioned spiritual authority. Leaders undergo a toxic spiritual ritual, consuming a lethal blue liquid extracted from a dying baby sandworm. Surviving this poison grants the user the memories of all their female ancestors, cementing their clerical dominance over the tribes. With that authority established, these leaders travel to the most isolated fundamentalist regions to fan the flames of an ancient prophecy. They spread the narrative that an outsider will arrive to become their lisan al-Gaib, a term meaning the voice from the outer world, an engineered savior myth designed to unite the fractured population. The engineered conviction that their leader is a literal deity serves as the resistance's primary weapon, far outweighing their actual skill in combat. Faster, more urgent tone. The tipping point arrives when the Empire's supreme ruler deploys his elite military forces directly to the planet. Outnumbered and facing total annihilation, the insurgent leader fully embraces the fabricated myth and undergoes the fatal toxic ritual to gain an unbreakable tactical advantage. The leader enters a state known as the Kwisatz Haderach, a prophesied superbeing possessing near-perfect prescient vision. This state allows the user to see across space and time, viewing multiple branching timelines of probability to navigate toward one specific desired future. Combining this total prescience with an army driven by religious devotion removes all strategic uncertainty. The troops fight without any fear of death, and the commander knows the outcome of every tactical decision before he even issues the order. A military force united by manufactured certainty and guided by perfect foresight operates entirely outside the rules of traditional warfare. Conventional armies cannot defeat an enemy that already knows exactly how the war ends. The final assault leverages both extreme environmental power and psychological terror. By using atomic weapons to obliterate mountain defenses and riding massive desert creatures directly into battle, the fundamentalist forces easily crush the supposedly unbeatable Imperial army. The physical victory is immediately followed by a political decapitation. The leader executes his rivals, forces the ruling emperor to abdicate, and demands marriage to the princess to legally secure his grip on the imperial throne. But weaponizing a myth carries a severe cost. When the other planetary houses refuse to recognize this violent ascension, the engineered religious fervor escapes its creator's control. The fanatical army cannot be deactivated, launching a bloody, uncontrollable galactic holy war. This systemic manipulation also extracts a deeply personal toll. The strategic political marriage and the embrace of mass fanaticism alienate the leader's closest allies, leaving those who fought for local liberation heartbroken and entirely abandoned. The mechanism of power here relies entirely on managing belief. When examining how influence operates, the first step is asking, what foundational stories and myths have we stopped questioning in our own lives?